maybe just, you know what I mean, just something to debunk it. But instead, from my understanding, he just makes a comment that says, yeah, it is false.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen and slummy viewers, how have you been? I've been absolutely amazing, and today we're going to be going over the interview with Saberspark's accuser. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, there is no way in hell that I'll be covering the full 3.5 hours of footage, especially when there's only a section of it that I actually care about, which is the Saberspark stuff, which I'm assuming the majority of people that have clicked on this video and the people that clicked on that interview only care about, which thankfully is timestamped in their description. Of course, ladies and gentlemen and slummy viewers, what I'm going to ask from you before we jump into this is you leave a like and subscribe, and of course, when you're done, comment down below your thoughts at the end of the video. But without further ado, let's dive straight into this topic. One last thing before I actually get into this interview itself, I want to say that I'm going to be jumping around this interview and things that I found interesting and things that I want to make comment on. So I highly recommend, if you are dedicated to the situation, interested in it to any extent, that you go and watch that section to get a full grasp of everything that they are saying.
That triggered me and made me realize, I wonder if that's just how my situation has been interpreted, because I didn't speak out, because I didn't sit there and say, no, get off of me, because I didn't, have something to say about it. Is that just how I'm being interpreted? And that triggered me and upset me a lot. And so, I was talking with my friend Amy about it because of all of the, conversation with Saber being brought up recently, and I just couldn't deal with it, and I just started kind of spilling on how I felt about it.
Now, of course, I think this is a popular question that has been asked, is why come about this now? Why have you decided to come out about this in any way, shape or form about this in this current day? And their response is, look, I got triggered, it got overwhelming, and I needed to say something.
Amy said, I could talk to, Brony Fandalt, who's handled these other situations, and maybe we can help you, and maybe this can help you work towards healing.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, has aged like fine wine, because we all know that that is the best piece of advice given in YouTube history. Go to Brony Fandom. That might actually help you start to heal. We might be on the path of recovery.
And I thought, okay, maybe we could at least start with a conversation, and that's how it all kind of started. And eventually it was, okay, now reach out to KP, because she's a victim.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen, the second piece of best advice in YouTube history. Now let's go to KP. Sorry, I didn't quite hear that. Could you repeat KP being a victim of Saberspark, did you say?
And maybe she's already working on something related to Saber, so maybe she'd be the right person. And me just kind of putting my trust in the people who I'm talking to about this very vulnerable situation, I just kind of was like, okay, I'll do it. I'm putting my trust in what I'm being kind of recommended.
Yes, people might suggest you things, but that doesn't mean that you have to put your full trust and do exactly what they're saying. There has to be a little bit of accountability there, because at the end of the day, without you going along with it, nothing would have happened in the first place in regards to this specific bit of the situation.
Yeah. Was there any particular reason why KP specifically? Because you said that, like, the people recommending her said that she was already a victim. Is that in regards to, like, the Chris stuff? Or just, like, because they used to be friends and Saberspark, blew her off or whatever the hell?
That's, I think, what they were referring to. They were like, yeah, she's a victim of Saber because of the situation with Chris, with the sexual harassment, and Saber not really, like, doing anything about it. But I didn't have that context until I then talked to KP.
Disclaimer, if we are taking what they're saying at face value here, and let's say it is the truth, then that is shocking. Referring to KP as a Saberspark victim in any way, shape or form, that is genuinely hilarious.
So every time everyone's saying she's a victim too, I'm like, oh, okay, like what happened here, So then I reached out to KP, and then we got into a call, and she asked me what happened. I told my story of everything, and then she kind of delved into all of her stuff going on with Chris.
Yeah, let's preface this, not a Saberspark victim in any way, shape or form. I think the term victim is so loose now, it can literally be attached to anything.
Even when it came to putting my trust in everybody, I still was like, I would rather just kind of be anonymous, please. I really, it's like I'm kind of coming forward, but I'm still, I don't want to get brutally harassed, by fans of him.
I'm kind of coming forward, but I'm still, I don't know. Oh god, do I want to do it? Oh, okay, let's just remain anonymous. Let's not post actual proper proof. Let me just say what I want to say. And look, not only does coming out that way and not fully committing or not fully publishing, your allegations properly against an individual make it incredibly hard for people on the outside to actually look into this allegation and take it seriously or take a look at it properly, but it also makes it incredibly hard for anybody to respond to that allegation or for people to actually take it seriously.
So there's always that like concern of like, well, what, he's got a fan base, how are they going to react? Are they going to be vicious about it? Are they going to be rude? Like,
Well, and let's also be completely upfront. I don't have nearly as much as he does, and I still have fans who do this even when I don't encourage them to. Like, when I'm telling them, do not do this. I do not encourage this, and they still do it. So even if Saber himself is not encouraging it, it's still going to happen, and we saw this happen, actually, when Saber responded, and Brony Fandol got pushed to the point of attempting his life,
Right.
because people were harassing him that badly. I've seen these comments, and they're very mean.
Under no circumstance is harassment acceptable. Of course, if you have a differing opinion or you have something that you want to say about a situation, you don't go over and harass an individual. You go over, you say it respectfully, you say it in a well-meaned, reasonable manner, and then you leave, right? You don't go and harass an individual. And of course, lots of these people are going to face backlash for these stupid decisions and mistakes that they have made, or issues and critiques people have with them. That is something that's always going to happen in a situation like this. People are going to say things and are going to critique. You're going to do something like this, that's of course something you've got to reason with and weigh up.
But what was your whole, like, thought process just kind of watching his response video? Like, did you think it was, like, good, or, like, were you like, oh, great response, bro? Like, I don't know. I don't know how a victim would respond to a response video, but...
Right? In terms of looking at it from somebody who would be hypothetically a fan of him, wanting to get the truth of, like, what happened, can you speak on this? I don't think it was very good.
When I originally made my video going over Saberspark's response, one of the critiques that I had for his response, that realistically he probably should have gone over the allegations just a little bit more. But there are several factors that you have to keep in mind, like the fact that this individual was anonymous, which makes responding to a situation like this 10 times harder. And look, when you are accusing somebody of something, proof is very important. So of course, when you are then responding to that allegation with said circumstances around the proof, that of course weighs into how you actually respond to the situation. And then the mentions of possible legal routes. Of course, again, that makes you more wary of what you're going to be saying in this response video to people like KP, Brony Fandom, and all these other individuals. Of course, you're going to be more wary of how you respond.
I know he knows who I am. We all know that because Casey acknowledges that she knows who I am, who is friends with Saberspark.
Right.
So I was really shocked by that response, honestly.
I also actually want to just take a moment to apologize for one of the interviewers breathing like Darth Vader down the microphone. I know that can be pretty distracting when you're trying to focus on a serious allegation or what the accuser themselves is trying to say when you can hear a Sith Lord in the background.
Yep, no, I completely agree.
Again, let me get back to the interview at hand. It's just something I noticed and it was kind of annoying me when I was trying to watch this.
A lot of people I would have expected was for him to, like, maybe read it and say, no, it's just all made up. No, all this is made up, or, maybe just, you know what I mean? Just something to debunk it. But instead, from my understanding, he just makes a comment that says, yeah, it is false.
I don't know if you heard what the accuser was saying over Darth Vader in the background, but I think it's very hard, and I think you've got to bear in mind the factor of that a lot of this was anonymous. It's very hard to respond to anonymous allegations. You really, as somebody who's then just been accused of that, it's very hard to respond. That's a very legitimate thing. But of course, like I said, I did have that critique that I definitely do think, and I still do believe, that Saberspark probably should have gone over the allegation just a little bit more in his video. Even if it was just a minute more of just going over what had come out and just, addressing things just a little bit more thoroughly. That is a genuine critique that I do understand.
Like, yes, the way that it happened, I don't stand by that, but yes, that's my story.
What do you want to happen, like, with Saberspark? Like, what was your end goal in sharing this? Were you just, like, are you, like, on the whole, like, let's burn everything Saberspark made, or, like, what's your, like, kind of end goal in this?
In all honesty, when it came to speaking out, there wasn't really a whole lot of one, apart from just, me proving that I could actually speak up about something.
Which ultimately would be your end goal, which is just sharing your story. Other people that have had allegations in the past, when they've come out, either want to maybe spread an awareness about the person they are coming out against. And of course, those who are more malicious are coming out so they can destroy that person's career or make false allegations against them for the same reason.
For me, more than anything, it was just kind of a personal thing of saying, no, I'm not okay with this. This has nothing to do with, honestly, it's not anything to do with trying to hurt him, and obviously I acknowledge it does. You know, I don't really want to hurt anybody, but at the same time, honestly, when it came to like the story coming out, deep down I just kind of had hoped, I mentioned I don't want him to reach out, but if he had emailed me and just gave me an apology of like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I had made you uncomfortable, that would have been a very healing thing to receive.
So that is our official response to, yes, this was my intentions, this was the end goal for me coming out about this. That's what they had to say.
Genuinely, obviously, he can't take away what he put me through. But I do believe that in some situations, like, there are people who can better themselves. And if he genuinely cared about how he made people feel and the impact that people as large content be able to make that right. And I would welcome that. If there was an epiphany one day where he realized, you know what? Yeah, I fucked up. I should not have done that. I was kind of taking advantage of her for this reason.
I would love to know what the audience has to say about that. I'm trying to remain tight-lipped about that. Trying to remain closed off if this guy just randomly woke up one day and went, no, I'm guilty now. I'm guilty. You know, I am a guilty man. I'm just gonna message him. Now, I'd just like to read some of the top comments on this interview and what you, the audience, have had to say about this. I think it's weird when you focus on the fact that Saberspark didn't go too much into the accusation when it was just an empty accusation. There wasn't any evidence or anything, just an accusation. What was he supposed to say then other I didn't do it? It's putting the burden of proof on him rather than the accuser. There wasn't anything to dissect. I don't understand. This is what we were saying for earlier about Saberspark, is there's only so much he can actually say and do in response to this accusation. Around the 248-24, it sounds like she genuinely does not understand that the burden of proof is on her, not him. It sounds to me like she genuinely does not understand that the burden of proof is on her, not him. He does not have to address the allegation, I didn't do it, you have to show proof, Emily. Edit, then immediately afterward, Lazy says he didn't deny it, but he absolutely did in the response video. Either this is willful ignorance or straight up lying, but it doesn't matter. Lazy is not an unbiased individual in this case, and letting her lead the interview was absolutely not the call. Missed enter, you should have done it. That's something I haven't mentioned up until this point, but the interviewer was speaking a lot more than the accuser. Of course, I know as somebody who runs a podcast that of course you are going to have your say, have an opinion, and voice that. But in an interview as serious and as maybe even important as this, I would like to hear more from the accuser than the person actually interviewing. But that is about it for today's video. I highly recommend that if you are interested in this situation and what the accuser and everybody else has to say, go over and watch the rest of the interview and what other things we might have missed in this video. But I do appreciate you watching, and please feel free to comment down below your thoughts, as I'm genuinely interested in what you have to say about this interview. But I've been your host Samuel. I will catch you in the next YouTube video. Goodbye for now.